There's just so much more to hear.
Download our podcasts at DubaiI1038.com.
Well, let's talk automotive if we can. Let's talk cars. You heard in the headlines at the top of the show the fact that the automotive industry is one of the industries suffering financially and globally at the moment. New car sales in the UK have fallen 44% last month, and globally, analysts saying the continued shutdown of vehicle factories in Europe and the US could cost the industry more than $100 billion. What's the situation locally? Well, Dubai-based automotive platform Seez has produced a data report that shows the effects of COVID-19 on the automotive industry over Q1 of 2020 here in the UAE. To tell us about those results and the latest data, we're joined by the CEO of Seez, Tarek Kabrit, joins us live on the line. Tarek, thanks for being with us.
Hi, good morning.
So tell us about this data. What did your report find?
So there are a few interesting findings there. So the first thing we found is, although the crisis started in February, the real impact on the market didn't really start to show until mid-March. So by mid-March, the number of new cars listed on a daily and a weekly basis was fairly stable. It actually peaked a little bit by mid-March, which means people knew something is going wrong and they tried to sell their cars faster. But then from mid-March till the end of March, the number of new listings, which is the supply, fell by around 50%, 62% for private sellers, which means people decided to hold off on selling their cars, which in return probably also means they are holding off on buying new cars as well. So we think the car buying market has dropped, at least for private people, by at least 60 to 65%.
Significant drop in the activity of buying and selling cars, be they pre-owned or new. What about car prices, though? What impacts it had on those?
So car prices held off fairly well, at least from a listing car price perspective, which means people probably were willing to negotiate a bit more, but kept their listing price constant till the last week of March. In the last week of March, on a day-by-day basis, it started to deteriorate. For mainstream cars, which are cars under 150,000 dirhams, it dropped by around 10%, whereas for premium cars, so the more expensive cars, it dropped by over 15%.
Obviously, this is a critical time for many organisations, for many individuals as well. How important, not just for the automotive industry, but also for households making a choice about cars and what to do, is the data at the moment? Not just the data that you at Seez are producing, but data in general to give people a better idea.
Yeah, so I think, in times of crisis, but like you were just talking earlier about the stock market and all that, data becomes key to really understand what's going on, when the bottom is, when the crisis is beginning to turn around, and what to do. And I think, during these times, there's very little data in the Middle East, and really finding those small pockets to really help with your analysis can make a big difference.
So, Tarek, people out there at the moment wondering what to do, a bit concerned about possibly a reduction in salary, possibly about the uncertain times ahead, etc., whatever it might be, considering their choices with regards to cars in the family, etc., if they're looking to offload a car, if they're looking to sell one of their cars at the moment, what's your advice to them during this downtime, to coin a phrase?
Yeah, so I think they should for sure, go ahead with trying to do it. They should list their cars. A lot of websites offer car listing for free, so there's no real cost there. They probably actually have more time to take nice pictures and wash the car now that they're at home. The number of buyers has dropped by 60%, but it's not zero. So I think they should engage with buyers. They will get few phone calls and leads. Maybe build a small database of those people. Maybe those people are not ready to buy now, but, the crisis will be over at some point. And then they can, reach out to those people that had gotten in touch with them earlier and check whether they still want to buy their car or not. And it's also a pretty good time to hunt for good deals, because most car sellers are also looking to buy cars, so they probably can find good deals. For those who aren't willing to really take the risk of ownership, I think leasing might be a pretty good option. They can spend this time really, filtering the leasing offers out there, and then once they're ready, they can go out and lease a car.
Obviously, you've been able to monitor market trends, Tarek, in recent times and similar times to this, obviously unprecedented times that we are in at present. But is it sort of the nature, is it human nature that people look to do away with possibly some of the new buys? I mean, are people more likely to forego buying a new car in 2020, given the uncertainties out there at the moment?
So there has been a shift towards used cars in general, even before all of this started. So I think that will definitely accelerate. What we've seen historically, when markets, are volatile, people who want to buy a Porsche aren't going to drop category, but they'll probably buy a Boxster or a Cayman instead of a 911. So they would stay within their segment, but they would go for a used car, slightly older car, and might drop a type of car within the segment. And cars, I mean, it's one of the industries that has been hit fairly hard with this crisis. But unlike the travel and restaurant industry, if you wanted to have a steak and you skip 7 weekends of steak, you're not going to go out and eat 7 steaks. If you want a car and this thing is over, you might go out and buy one.
Good advice. Tarek Kabrit, the CEO of Seez. Thank you very much indeed for your time this morning. Thanks for the data as well. It's available online.
There's just so much more to hear.
Download our podcasts at DubaiEye1038.com.